Hi there. How are you? I think we're doing good on the audio part. So if anyone's, I had some trouble. Um, Hi Beth. I had some trouble last week, I think the week before, with with my audio. Um, just gonna go send someone the link. We're a little bit early, right? So we can chill for a little bit. Bum, 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 bum. And send. All right, Kelly is here. So today I was out of it. I have a deadline for a couple of portraits, and my brain refused to acknowledge that February this year has 28 days, and I have to submit my stuff before March 1st. So in my mind, I had 3 days, and in reality, I have no such thing. So I couldn't really focus on something else. So I thought I would just turn on the live stream and do a little bit of work on this to not waste any time. I'm trying to see if I can. Let's see. Hi, Ariana is here. Hi, hi. Wonderful. I'm glad you all agree that it's a great idea to work on this portrait. I'm not sure when I started it. I would have to look up my Instagram feed. I think I started posting there. But it has given me a bit of a headache. And, you know, it's my son, so I can't be. Hi, Alyssa. Good to see you. So, this is not about the subject itself, of course, which is my kid. Um, but I was talking to my mom about it, and you know, my mom is great, and she's always trying to figure out, like, why are you unhappy with something, like what's going on, okay? And I feel like for this portrait, I set a high standard for myself, and I'm always a little bit unsure about, like, what standard I need to set for myself, because I think some of you can relate when you're self-taught, don't have a teacher to tell you what is what. You gotta set your own goals. And sometimes I set them too low, and maybe sometimes I set them too high. And at the same time, right now I'm dealing with this deadline and this, rush of having to, wrap it up. I mean, it's got to end at some point, whether I like it or not. But I am trying to document, maybe a little bit, what the things are or the moments are where I feel like I could have done things differently. And I don't want to say make mistakes, but yeah, we make mistakes, right? So I sometimes do things, and I have ideas that are maybe technically a little bit out of my reach, right? That need a little bit more muscle memory, a little bit more practice. But at the same time, that's also how I work. I've always worked like that. You go in with everything, and then you fix your problems along the way. And I feel like that's what I've been doing with this portrait and the other one as well. I've been fixing problems mainly. So that is something that I would like to think about. How to deal with some of these problems before and not during a painting process. Let's check the live chat. Yeah, it was my son, yeah. He was kind enough to pose for me. And I did a portrait of my mom. And I did a portrait of my son. And I have to say I struggled more with the portrait of my son. And there's a weird there's a weird thing with kids, and I like, I know it theoretically, but I don't run into it often because I don't paint a lot of kids. But everybody knows that when you paint kids, you always struggle with these the placement and the proportions of the features, right? Because when you paint a lot of adults and then you paint a kid, they always look like adults, right? So it's difficult to keep those proportions kid-like. But my son is 15 and he's not an adult, but he's also not a kid. And he sits somewhere in between. Like, the voice got lower, he got the jawline, but at the same time, he's a kid. And he sits somewhere in between. And every time I made a little adjustment in this portrait, he went from being 5 years old to being 25 years old to being 35 years old. I was like, please go back to being 15. And I lost him so many times, and I'm not sure if I got it right. I have one more day actually tomorrow, during which I'm gonna do the shadows, because I cannot for the life of me do shadows under artificial light. So I have one more day. I'm gonna call my mom. She's gonna come over. She's gonna tell me if it's okay. Hi, Dylan. I will show my mom's portrait at the end of the stream if I remember to do that. I kind of wrapped that up today. I'm just not going to touch it anymore. It's done. That's it. I think this is the first time that painted on that I'm painting on an existing work during a live stream, and I think I had that experiment a little while ago, I think a year ago, with doing some studio recordings, just recordings while I was working, not too much editing. That didn't work out too well for me. Like, I get a little bit weird about uploading videos that aren't edited to death. But I am thinking maybe it's nice to do some live streams every now and then, with simply, working on stuff. Kelly says, I moved to graphite the beginning of the year and needed a break. Discovering, solving, yeah. Yeah, I feel that. It's my struggle with paint. I think Kelly is also similar to yours, where you're trying to balance so many different technical aspects, value, chroma, the physical nature of oil paint, drying times, rules, etc. And I sometimes feel, like I said before, like I can't always get all of it right. Like I need to paint more, basically. And going back to something like graphite, which I love graphite, by the way. It allows you to go back to, simply values and the pressure of your pencil. I also feel, and I don't know, maybe it's the same for you, maybe not, but I feel like with graphite, I'm closer to what I'm doing. Like I'm closer physically to my paper, and my hand is closer to. Um, and with painting still, um, I sometimes feel like I'm taking a bit of a lucky guess, like could go wrong, could go right, not really sure. So yeah. Breathe. Anyone else stop breathing when they paint? All right, so while we are doing this, I can't wait. I can't wait to have these portraits done because I have a lot of stuff in my head and it needs to come out. Like, I like fiddling on portraits to an extent, um, but sometimes the brain starts working, and I have half a sketchbook full of stuff, and I had a meeting Tuesday with someone who's also an artist, who wants to do a group exhibition. And I'm very excited about that. And I'm also just very excited to start working on, something of a body of work for this year. Because last year was just empty. Like I have 0 things in my portfolio from last year. But this year that is not going to happen to me. I don't care what the world does. I'm going to paint my way through it. This has to be the hardest portrait I've done. I'm gonna decide that right here. It's funny because you look at these features every day, all day. Kids on school holiday right now. Comes sit in my studio all day, hangs around all day, and then when you have to paint them, you go like, oh, what? And the funny thing is, I never used to draw my kid when he was little. I felt bad about that for a little while. Um, but it didn't interest me at all. That sounds really bad. But I've never really been one to, like randomly draw from life. Like I would draw things. Um, but not necessarily from life. So I have exactly 0 drawings of my kid. I do have a lot of photographs though. All right, so let me show you what I have here. This is my palette. This is a lot of dark paint that I glazed my mom's portrait with, so you can ignore that. And I have here, this little bit of light midtones, and I put a lot of transparent medium into it. So what I'm trying to do is at some point last week I knocked back all of the values here. It was very flat. They gave it a little bit of life, gave it a little bit of color. And then I came back in with these transparent white layers, not white, lighter layers, and sort of bring these areas forward again. So that's basically my final. Like, I'm not going to go back in here with another glaze because it's literally going to be an endless portrait if I do that. So I'm trying not to overdo it too much. And what I like to do, this is a bit of what I used to do with acrylic paint, is I like to put paint on and then wait for it to get tacky a little bit and then scrape it off with a needle or something like that. But I might wait with that until we end the live stream because I don't think it's gonna sound very good on a microphone. Oh, I'm just gonna check the chat. Trying to compress all of who he has been and who you see him becoming. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a very strange age. And honestly, I never realized it until I started struggling with this portrait. But it's a very strange age. And I have to say, he's doing very well. He's doing better than me at that age. And that's good. That's great. So one of the things that I am never ever going to do again in the future, lesson learned. I had these panels, and I figured, the stress of doing a portrait, hadn't done a portrait in a while. I thought, I'm just gonna go grab a panel that has layers on it, gesso over it, be done with it, right? It's not going to be up for sale, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And I figured that if I would be very casual about it, it would alleviate some of that stress that I felt. Um, what I'm dealing with now is texture under my paint layers that I have no control over. And that is something, I'm kind of glad that I figured it out now in, you know, a portrait that is more of a personal project than anything else. But in the future, I'm gonna try and avoid this. Because right now, like here, I have this horizontal ridge and it's catching paint. It's also catching light. So you kind of have to paint against the shape of it, the height of it, which is not, it's not ideal. So I have these little, what are they called? I think you use it for something called a scrape board. It's those, you can buy them in packs, these black pieces of paper, and then underneath the black is a color, and you can scrape your drawing into it. So you can get sets of these sort of scraper thingies. And I like using them. I also use a clay needle. It's a needle with a very sharp point. It's quite thick, but with a very thin sharp point for clay. Sometimes I feel like I scrape more than I paint. Ariana, has your son told you what he thinks? Yes. So here's how a 15-year-old goes. He comes in, he says, "Damn, I look hot," and then he walks away. That's the only feedback. So I'm struggling, and he's like, "Damn, I look hot." Yes, 15. He's like the chillest 15-year-old ever. I got very, very lucky. 'Says I've seen people use their palette knives. Yeah, yeah, palette knife. Oh, I went berserk on my mom's portrait day before yesterday. I put on um, a black or very dark background, and I was like, no, it's not working. And I scraped it off, and my palette knife right now is so sharp. It was great. Um, yeah, so palette knife. Um, and any kind of tool for, little details, whatever you want. Scraping is fun. Forty minutes in. I'm shocked sometimes how little I get done in like the later stages of a portrait with the time that I have. Alyssa says the beginning always goes really fast. Yeah, it does. And I remember I did the underpainting for this um, portrait, and I was ridiculously happy. And that is usually not a good sign. Like, I was very happy with that underpainting. And from that moment on, I feel like I never got back to that click I had with the underpainting. And I'm not like I don't think you should have that that kind of relationship with your underpainting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you guys understand me. We should do this more often. Uh, I'll just take all my portrait problems on the live stream and we'll work it out here. I remember doing, I'm not sure what it was. Oh yeah, I remember. Um, so Cara Bullock sent me Robert Kelly's first portrait course to watch a long time ago, um, which by the way is great. He does charcoal. And Robert Kelly said, yeah, don't be too precious about things while he was, wiping away um, drawings that I couldn't make in a million years. So don't be too precious. And I still remember that today. Don't be too precious. But at the same time, I also at some point learned, after the first initial stage, to kind of stand still and see what are the things that you like, what are the things that you want to keep. Um, I used to work a little bit too fast because I was in a hurry. I wanted to make a million artworks. And I would look back in my progress photos and I would see things that I would really like to get back. So it's a bit of both. And when it comes to overworking, I've just been sitting here with 45 minutes, 45 minutes. If this isn't overworking, then I don't know what is, but I do feel it needs to be done. Like, I kind of know what I want. And I also know which areas not to touch. Like, stop it. Don't touch. Do any of you work with artificial light a lot? Because I have the luxury of being able to work during the day most of the time. And I noticed, especially during the live streams, I have a lot of trouble adjusting to artificial light. I have a decent light. Like it's not a bad light. But like these shadows, I'm gonna do that tomorrow morning. I'm not gonna touch that right now. Alyssa says, yeah, because I work at night. Yeah. Yeah, I used to work at night as well. I did a lot of watercolor as well. That is horrible under light. So I would usually just turn it down. Like the light is pretty cranked up right now for the cameras to work, obviously. Ariana says maybe some painting need this. Yeah, they do. They do need this. I think the whole thing about overworking, like it's more of a look that people don't like than the actual act of working on something like for too long. Um, I think what people mean maybe more is that they painted over things that they wanted to keep. All right. We have 10 more minutes to go. Because I'm still watching Dylan. Are you all still watching Dylan? Ariana says I can't use artificial lights in the evening because I won't sleep. Same here. Yes. Yeah, I won't be sleeping for a few hours after this, unfortunately. But like I said, like I have the luxury right now to sleep in a little bit, work late, sleep in, continue in the morning. So I'm gonna wrap this up, and I'm gonna show you my other portrait just for the fun of it. So tomorrow, what I'm gonna do, it's showing a little bit weird right now because of the light, but this area needs to be rendered. I had some trouble with the eye that was constantly moving itself downwards. So this needs to be done. The background needs a little bit of work. The hair here needs a little bit of work. This area needs to be finished. That's it. I'm not going to touch it anymore. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I will show you my other there we go. So this one I finished today. I scraped down all of the black in the background and I glazed back over it, give it a little bit of color depth. I did a lot of glazing here. I could probably do a million other things that would make it better, but I gotta stop working on it at some point. You know, if I keep fiddling on it, with it, I'm gonna run the risk of, you know, picking up my my glazing from lower layers that aren't dry. It's gonna be a mess. So that's it, right? I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I also feel like it's at some point just time to move on to different projects, and I have a lot of like ideas and stuff I want to work on. So I'm gonna wrap this up so we can all watch Dylan do awesome things. And if you like this kind of live stream where I just, you know, turn the live stream on and work on whatever it is I'm working on, you can let me know. Next week we're gonna paint a sculpture that Ariana recommended. I will share that with you. I have a Facebook group. Follow me on Instagram, pretty much everywhere. And I hope you join me again next week in another painting live stream. All right, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.